Well, if anyone ever tried to buy a replacement seat for a tractor, it's not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, unless you had a John Deere, they sell those yellow seats all day long, but working on a tractor that's probably 45 years oldish, the seats back then were a little bit different than they are now. Some of the seats on the old Graveleys have like one big, huge bolt in the middle that bolts the thing down. Others have random bolts around them, like maybe 4 bolts that bolt them down. But if you look at a catalog, whether it's someplace like Northern Tool, wherever they sell these seats, it's really hard to get an understanding if the seat is actually going to fit your tractor. What it boils down to is that you pretty much just have to take some measurements of your existing seat and try to find a new seat that is about the same size. And as long as it physically will fit where your old seat was, hopefully you can drill some new holes or something like that to mount it. So stay tuned to the battle of the seat. Tell you a little story about these seats. So a couple years ago, I don't even remember, it was probably 3 years ago, a friend of mine messaged me and told me that he saw these seats for sale on this company called Rural King. We don't have Rural Kings out here in the Northeast. They're more in the Midwest, I think. But it's like a Tractor Supply kind of place from what I understand. So I went on their website and I ordered 4 of them. And they were only $10 a piece with free shipping. So I got 4 deluxe high back seats literally for $40. And usually one of these seats was like $80 to $100. And I just got 4 of them for $40. So let me show you how it looks. All right, so this seat is the new one, and it has a billion bolt holes in the bottom, which is kind of funny, but they call it a high-back steel pan seat made in China. What do you know? And let's see. In California, this thing causes cancer, I guess, so good thing we're not in California, I guess, huh? Well, let's see if any of these bolts. Oh, we already got a problem right out of the box. This thing in the middle here is jacking up the whole seat riser, so it's kind of wobbly. So I guess we'll have to put spacers under it when we ultimately find the right holes. Is this going to work? Yeah, there's actually holes that line up. So the next question is, what size bolts go in here? I'm kind of thinking that those are 3/8 bolts that are going to go in these holes. So, and if we do put it here, the next question is, it looks like it's farther back on the seat than the other one was. I'd have to take a ruler and measure from the front to where this riser starts over here, this distance, and see if we can get it to be equal on both of them. I don't want the seat to be too far forward when you're on the machine, because then you'll be too close to the steering wheel and it just won't work right. So let's hope out of these 100 holes that are in this thing that we can find the right one. So let me get a tape measure and a couple 3/8 bolts. Okay, so I got the tape measure here. And on the old seat, it's about 4.5 inches from the front to the first hole. So that would put me in this hole here. So let me see if I can actually get one. That's the 3rd hole up. It turns out that it actually takes a 5/16 bolt, not a 3/8. But I just grabbed a couple random bolts here. They're not they won't be the finished product, but it's just enough to see if it will line up. All right, so of course I put in that 1 bolt and none of the other holes line up. I knew that was going to happen. I didn't think it would be that easy. I think it's going to turn into doing some math and drilling some new holes. So, that's going to suck, huh? It's in that hole, but the width is just off a hair. Just the hole over here on this side doesn't line up. So, you know, I didn't think that a seat that's 45 years old or whatever this original one is would actually line up with something new from today. I'm sure that over time the bolt patterns have changed and whatnot. So I'll measure out a couple things on here and see if we can make some custom holes, I guess. All right, so here's the deal. If I measure on the old seat up to where the riser starts, it's about 3 3/4 inches. It's hard to tell exactly. Yeah, it's about 3 3/4. So if I measure the width of the seat, they're both the same on old and new, both 15 inches. So what I need to do is put a center line in here so I know where the center is and I can line it up on the center of this. And I'm going to place it on there and measure up to where I need it to be. So it's 4 inches up. And I'm actually going to trace the thing on there. And then we'll come back and do some measurements. All right, so I put it up there, I measured it, and I pretty much traced it on there. And it's really going to be tough to find the right bolt holes here. I mean, like maybe this one and the bottom would work. And problem is, those two on the top are right on the back edge. So unless I moved it up a little bit, I couldn't use those two again. And I could use these two, but I'm just not sure. They may be too close to the edge or too close to the existing hole. Let me just see. Yeah. Problem is that they're so close to the existing holes that if I were to use those, they'd overlap the existing hole, and that'd be no good either. So it's like, dude, what do you do, right? I could do one here in the center. That would help. Just tough, you know? Just real tough. You would think that it wouldn't be so complicated, you know? So short of getting another piece of metal and attaching it on top of this and making an adapter to the adapter, it's kind of a tough thing. So I think I'm going to go to these two and these two. And I'm not liking that there's not a lot of support in the back. That's the only problem. Seems like, I don't know if that's a problem or not. I really don't. But I suppose I could drill a hole like in here and tap it or something like that. I suppose I could drill a hole pretty much anywhere and tap it. I just don't want to go into this foam in there. I'd have to be careful. They have some kind of like thread inserts in there. They're not necessarily drilled and tapped, if you will. But yeah, it's kind of stinks, you know. If I moved it over a hair, it wouldn't be centered. It'd be off like a 1/4 inch. I could use that top hole up there. Or I could try to maybe hog out those two top holes a little bit. The problem is that if I measure between these two holes here, I'm at like 8 1/4, and if I measure my holes here, I'm at 8, so I'm a 1/4 inch off. So I'd have to elongate both these holes 1/8 of an inch in each direction. You know what, that might not be the end of the world to do that. We're really close to my line there. You know, I mean, if we're off the thickness of a line here, 1/4 inch or something, it ain't gonna matter. So maybe I'll take a file and I'll just go into these holes and try to file them and oblong them and go out left and right. I ended up taking my Dremel tool here with this carbide cutter on there. It's an 1/8 inch cutter, so I just went over one width of the cutter and went down and over and hogged it out on both sides here. So let's bring that over and see if we can get it to fit now. All right, I got to go a little bit more over here. Okay, let's see how that turns out. All right, so hogging them out is going to make it fit, and I'm real close to my line up there that I originally drew. I mean, we're like a 1/16 off. So what I'm actually going to do now is take this thing off and look for where I want my next hole to be. I'm going to put a square across there on the seat and draw a line out to the side. Then I can take that line and draw it up the side of this to reference where the next hole would be. So I drew out a line from here and here. And we'll put the seat pan back on and we'll draw that line up the side. And then we can have a pretty good reference of, we can measure from the line in how far it is, transfer that measurement onto the seat pan and drill the holes. And hopefully they'll line up. All right, I drew a new reference line here with a Sharpie. So now what I can do is I can measure out from there, and I'm at like about, I don't know, 7/8 of an inch on that side. And on this side here, I'm at about 1 inch. So being off 1/8 of an inch ain't so bad. So you can see the Sharpie reference line here. Just connect the dots and we'll do the measurements. So let's measure once, cut twice. All right, 7/8 on that side, and this side is 1. So I'm actually going to take the Sharpie. I'm going to write it in here, 7/8 and 1, and then we'll do our math and drill some holes. All right, so I got 2 little pilot holes drilled here, right by my fingers. So before we get too crazy, we'll just put it back over there and make sure they line up. And if they do, we'll go and finish them up. I had this old hitch pin over here that's all bent up. So I put it through the hole. And it's hard to see if we're actually lined up, but we are. I can see beneath and it is going through. So let's try this side here, the other side, and yeah, we're gonna line up. So let's drill these out to like 3/8. All right, so I got these 3 bolts in. This one's a really tight fit over here. This one is just off a hair. So I'm just gonna hog that hole out going towards the back of the seat, just a hair, and we'll see if we can get that one in. I'd like to have them as tight as possible so there's not as much slop as there has to be. I don't actually have the right size bolts. I probably need some, 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch bolts to bolt this thing in. And we are going to need to put some spacers under here, like I was saying, some washers. Maybe like if I stack 3 washers under each one, it'll probably be sufficient to give me the right spacing. But all right, let's hog that out. So I got them so they all line up. Just got to get the right size bolts, and it looks like putting 3 washers under there is going to get me just where I need to be with the spacers. This bolt here is a little bit short of what I'd like it to be. So I'll measure this and we'll check it out. All right, so let's check the final results. So we're 3 3/4 up, just like we're supposed to be. So I think we did awesome. So this bolt here is 3/4 of an inch. I'd like it to be a little longer, so I'm going to go with a 1 inch bolt. And this would be perfect if we didn't have that situation of the middle here being jacked up. So, I think that this is going to be real good. So we're going to get 4 1 inch bolts and 12 washers, and we'll bolt this thing up solid. I'm just contemplating, should I get involved with this rusty paint here and repainting this before we put it back together. That's the next dilemma, because if you start to paint stuff, you'll never finish it. At least I don't. So maybe we should paint it, maybe not, but at least we're gonna have a nice new seat. And then I got to get new bolts to put through here as well, so just like 4 more 1/2 inch bolts for that. And that bolts down onto the seat pan with a washer and a nut. No big deal. Cool. All right, we got this all bolted onto the seat now. Now I'll go bolt it on the tractor, and let's hope it still fits properly. This is awesome. Well, I would say that this is a success. I got to sit on it, and we'll see how it feels. And it does have drain holes in the back. I forgot about that. Oh, it's nice and solid. Oh, dude. It feels like a brand new tractor with this nice new seat up here. Score. All right, the last step of this rehab is putting the shift plate back on, which has been off for years. So I'll take those 2 knobs off and see if we can get that thing on there. We'll test it out. All right, so we got the shift plate in there. We got two more things to do on this tractor, and that will be for another video, but it's missing a knob in the middle, so got to get a knob for the high-low range. And the grip tape on the running boards is all gone. And I bought grip tape a couple years ago to put on there, but I've just never gotten around to it. So maybe what we'll do is one of these days we'll bring it out here and lay it out and cut it. And it's adhesive. It's actually for a skateboard. And we'll stick it on there. So hopefully we'll get some snow this year and we can use this nice new seat in this rehab tractor. That would be awesome. Thanks for watching. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe.